with Coast Guard swimmer at State of the Union for the record, and I thank the Secretary.
Without objection, the gentleman from Colorado is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, Madam Secretary. Thank you for being here. I want to discuss in greater detail the expansion of advertising in your department under your tenure, and I believe you testified regarding some of these matters yesterday in front of the United States Senate. In particular, I want to discuss the department's $220 million ad campaign. This is the ad campaign that featured you at Mount Rushmore. You're familiar with this ad campaign, correct?
I am familiar with it. It was an ad campaign that was...
I'm going to ask you some questions about it, Madam Secretary. So, as I understand it, this is a $220 million ad campaign. It's split between two contractors. One of those contractors got $143 million. That contractor is called Safe America Media, correct?
Correct.
Okay. That company is affiliated with a former political director of the National Republican Congressional Committee. Now, yesterday you testified, I think I'm quoting you right, you said, quote, or in reference to this contract, that, quote, it went out to a competitive bid. Do you stand by that statement?
It was a no-bid contract where two vendors were...
It was a no-bid contract.
If it would have been a no-bid contract, if I'm using that correctly, it goes out to two different vendors.
Correct. So it was not a competitive... Let me try to explain what the discrepancy, because a competitive bid is very different than a no competitive bid, and I'll just explain why. We know that your testimony yesterday, when you said, again, I'll quote, it went out to a competitive bid, is untrue. The reason we know it's untrue is because under federal law, your agency is required, whenever the agency decides to skip competitive bidding, to file a notice with the public explaining why. And in this case, your agency filed a notice. You're aware of that, right? Justification and approval for other than full and open competition. Your agency made a decision not to proceed with competitive bidding, and one of the contractors that got the award was this Safe America Media Company that received $143 million.
Many vendors got the chance to look at that contract and to participate in it.
Well,
so that is why the two of them were chosen.
That's inaccurate, Madam Secretary. I'll read from the notice from your agency. Given the immediate action to significantly reduce illegal immigration and border crossings, DHS identified 4 companies. 4 of the hundreds of thousands of companies in the United States, you identified 4. One of those is this Safe America Media Company. Where is Safe America Media headquartered?
I don't know.
I don't know either, Madam Secretary. We can't find it. We can't find a website. We did find an address that's registered for this company. Do you know where that address is?
Is there a problem with this contract?
I'll tell you about it.
According to
Madam
law,
Secretary, the
address
is registered to a political operative. Madam Secretary, the company, and then I'll give you an opportunity to respond. The company is registered to a political operative in Virginia. Do you know, just by way of example, whether this company that received $143 million in taxpayer dollars, has it ever done work for the government before?
I don't know. I can't.
The answer is it has not. And do you know why we know that? Because it was incorporated 8 days before this contract went out. You want the American people to believe that this is all above board?
Yes,
that $143 million of taxpayer money just happened to go to this one company that doesn't have a headquarters, doesn't have a website, has never done work for the federal government before, and is registered, apparently, or attached to a residence from a political operative. And of course, one of the subcontractors of that contract, as you know, is a political firm that's tied to you back when you were governor of South Dakota. The reason why I ask these questions is that this is taxpayer money. And I presume, I don't know this for a fact, but Senator Tillis noted yesterday the way in which your agency is blocking the Inspector General from 11 different investigations that it is trying to conduct. I don't know if this happens to be one of them. I certainly hope it is, because eventually the facts will become public in this regard. And there are serious laws implicated, conflict of interest laws, federal procurement laws, that I believe,
All
merit...
followed, all done correctly,
Was
all
it
done legally.
all done correctly?
14 billion impressions from that
the-
marketing campaign.
sure.
It was money spent in this country and in 8 different countries that illegal migration was coming from.
Madam Secretary,
Overwhelmingly
yeah,
effective.
we all
$39
understand the argument that you've
billion.
made, that somehow this ad campaign on Fox News of you at Mount Rushmore has led to millions of people self-deporting. You're
Why do you-
using
why do you think
millions
that
of
they did
dollars of
self-deport? Had they
taxpayer
not known?
money in this way. It is fraud, and ultimately, I think there's going to be accountability. And I yield back, Madam.
Can I speak to the IG?
Yes, you can, quick.
The IG has been told repeatedly, in writing, verbally, on the phone, that he can have access to anything at the Department of Homeland Security. He can. He doesn't need my permission to come and brief members of Congress on the Hill. He just needs to provide a scoping memo, which is what every single IG gets from every single department and agency. All intelligence agencies require a scoping memo. He just hasn't done that. He wants unfettered access to every single thing in the department, and that's not the process, and that's not any other IG has demanded that.
The gentlelady from Florida is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you. I'd seek unanimous consent to introduce an article from the Washington Post dated February 3rd, 2026. Homeland Security is targeting Americans with this secretive legal weapon.
Without objection.
Also, an article from the New York Times, February 13th, 2026. Homeland Security wants social media sites to expose anti-ICE accounts.
Without objection.
And finally, a report from November 16, 2017, the Inspector General of Department of Homeland Security. Management alerts CBP's use of examination and summons authority under 19 U.S.C. Section 1509.
Without objection.
Thank you.
Ranking members recognized for
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I seek unanimous consent to enter the record a ProPublica article, November 14, 2025, titled "Firm Tied to Kristi Noem Secretly Got Money from $220 million DHS Ad Contracts."
Without objection. Chair now recognizes the gentlelady from Georgia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Secretary Noem, you claim that you are going after the worst of the worst. If you were doing that, I would really be cheering you on, but this simply isn't the case. That's false. Rodney Taylor, who is incarcerated at Stewart Detention Center in Georgia, he's a prime example. He's 47 years old and works as a barber. When he was 2, he was brought to this country legally on a medical visa to address his extensive disabilities. He needed a medical care for a deformed left foot, a missing right foot, and 3 fingers missing on his right hand. Rodney has had 16 different operations and has been a double amputee since the age of 10 years old. Rodney received a criminal conviction when he was 17, nearly 30 years ago. However, Rodney was pardoned by the state of Georgia by Republican Governor Sonny Perdue. And since then, Rodney has lived a law-abiding life and has a green card application that's now pending. And no administration, including the first Trump administration, has sought to remove Rodney from this country. In January 2025, he entered ICE detention, and his health has deteriorated quickly since then. Rodney has experienced several health challenges, including bone spurs in his back causing severe pain. Rodney sought medical care multiple times while detained, but was rejected. He is unable to use a wheelchair because his right hand only has 1 full finger, making it impossible for him to push it. He's unable to walk on his prosthetic legs because he's lost 20 pounds and they simply don't fit him anymore. On top of this, he's at the mercy of other detainees just to get food, since he can't get himself to and from the cafeteria. Rodney's disabilities make it nearly impossible for him to shower. He went 6 days without showering because the detention center lacked the appropriate medical equipment. When he finally got a shower stool, he found moldy showers covered in feces and bodily fluids just yesterday. He was threatened with disciplinary action if he tries to use that shower stool. Rodney must crawl through that muck and squalor of feces and bodily fluids to enter and exit the shower. This is despicable. It's inhumane torture that no person should have to endure. And today, we have Rodney's wife, Mildred Donis Taylor, and her daughters, please stand, who are United States citizens. Secretary Noem, can you honestly tell Rodney's wife and family and the American people that are watching that these cruel and unusual conditions are acceptable under your watch?
I'm not familiar with this case, and I will certainly look into it and ensure that this center where Rodney is at is held to the same standards as all of our federal detention standards, which are the highest in the nation, overwhelmingly in comparison to other detaining facilities at the local or state
I'm
level.
reclaiming
The other
my
thing
time,
that I would
Secretary.
say
I'm reclaiming my time.
is that at any point, Rodney
Did you just hear me, what I
has an
described?
opportunity
Did
to
you
leave that
just hear what I
detention center.
described? He has to crawl through mold and feces and bodily fluids just to take a shower. He can't even get medical care.
Every
This
one
is
of our
absolute
detainees,
lunacy, and you know it. Ranking
every one of
Member
our detainees
Jayapal,
gets medical care
reclaiming
within
my
12 hours
time,
of being
reclaiming
there.
my time. Ranking Member Jayapal, myself, and 20 of my colleagues, we wrote to you about Rodney's treatment more than 2 weeks ago. Yes or no, have you actually read the letter?
No, I have not heard of this case, so I will see
Let
what
me tell you,
that
I
letter
have the
is
letter
at.
right here. And would you like to read it? Because I'm more than happy to bring a staff
That'd be
member
great.
down to
That'd
it.
be fantastic.
Absolutely. Thank you, I appreciate
I
that.
will look into the
So
case.
then, if you're going to look into the case, can you tell us how long it'll be before we actually get a response from you? Maybe 2 weeks?
No, I'll get you a response.
Because
Get the information.
we deserve an answer, and Rodney's family definitely deserves an answer, because this is inhumane treatment. And this leads me to believe that there are so many other detainees that are being treated exactly the same way, and this is despicable. Secretary, will you promise his wife and this committee and the American people that you will review?
They know where we should be, where these truck drivers are, how we should do enforcement, and we partner with them in a task force model to do immigration enforcement.
Thank you for that, and I yield back.
The lady yields back. Unanimous consent from the lady from Georgia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a unanimous consent request since Secretary Noem claims not to be familiar enough with this case. From March 2025, a CNN article covering Rodney's story. From June 2025, a Fox article titled Protests as ICE Detains Disabled Atlanta Barber Despite State Pardon, covering Rodney's story. An article from September 2025 titled Detained by ICE, Gwinnett Barber with Amputated Legs Petitions for Release. And lastly, I'd like to also submit the letter that Ranking Member Jayapal, myself, and all of our colleagues sent to Secretary Noem in February.
Without objection, the gentlelady from North Carolina is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secretary Noem, Hurricane Helene tore through western North Carolina almost a year and a half ago, killing more than 100 people and causing more than $60 billion of damage. 2 months later, Congress passed a bipartisan disaster package, which included $29 billion for FEMA Disaster Relief Fund covering several states. And yet, despite this, countless North Carolinians have spent 2 winters paying mortgages and taxes on homes that are unlivable and may not even exist anymore. They have been waiting in limbo for your department to sign off on recovery funding. And I know Representative Kiley raised similar issues in his state. North Carolina's counties have had to step up to fill in the gap, spending their limited taxpayer funds on recovery and repair, with the expectation that they would swiftly be reimbursed by the federal government. And yet, many of these counties have not been reimbursed until this week, but we'll get to that. Meaning that they have had to use all their money and not have money for their essential services, public schools, EMS, other public services, health care, and everything else. And I have met with some of the county executives who have struggled with their budgets while recovering from Helene. These delays in paying out this desperately needed recovery funds are simply unacceptable. And you heard that from my Republican senator, Senator Tillis, yesterday. Your new policy, and it is a new policy, requiring your personal sign-off on expenditures over $100,000 has contributed to many of these delays, creating a bottleneck, blocking reimbursement for hundreds of millions of dollars of disaster funding that stand directly between North Carolinians and that relief. In fact, Senator Tillis, as I'm sure you remember, lambasted you and the failure of your department in dispersing these funds. And then magically, about $80 million got released today, for which we're thankful. But we shouldn't have to have a U.S. senator or a representative or another representative come to you directly to get you to do your job. But we also know that you had time to sign off on the purchase of 2 luxury private Gulfstream jets for your personal travel, $170 million. And we've heard about the new Boeing 737 that you're in the process of outfitting. Evidently, you were satisfied that there was no fraud, waste, and abuse involved in the jets. But meanwhile, could you tell me whether you found any fraud, waste, or abuse in these North Carolina expenditures?
You know, Congresswoman, what I would tell you is that Joe Biden failed North Carolina.
Listen to me. I asked you a direct question. Joe Biden provided greater relief. Joe Biden showed up.
No, he
Joe
didn't.
Biden didn't lie about what was going on the ground. I don't even want to get into what Donald Trump did during the campaign, the misinformation that was put out there. And you cannot find the time until my senator berates you in public to approve this money. Individual members of Congress should not have to come to you. Our counties, our struggling counties in the western part of the state, are some of the most rural counties. They are poor counties. They do not have the money to front for you.
In the months that we have been here, we have deployed billions of dollars, billions more than what the Biden administration
I am reclaiming my time. You have been too slow. I have heard this from Republican county commissioners. I have heard this from administrators. I have been in the western part of the state. I know exactly what's going on, and you have turned a blind eye while you're busy trying to deport American citizens. And now I want to get back, reclaiming my time, to the second point that Senator Tillis made. You have not responded to him and the people of North Carolina about why you have picked up U.S. citizens. You've heard that from Representative Correa. Why you have intimidated people who are here lawfully, and why you are threatening the economy of one of the most prosperous states in this country by practicing malpractice. You should resign or be impeached. I yield back.
Chairman, may I answer that question? The state of North Carolina has received billions more in Helene relief disaster assistance than President Biden did. In fact, every single
because we appropriated the money.
Every project has been obligated. It's been paid out. The state manages the response, and those counties get their funding from the state, which has been allocated the FEMA dollars.
Unanimous consent to enter into the record a climate power article titled Kristi Noem Gutted Disaster Response.
Objection.
And then a unanimous consent request to enter into the record a Guardian article titled A Bar, Kitchen, Flat Screen TVs, $70 million DHS is eyeing for deportations.
Objection.
And then the last one, a press release by my colleagues on the Appropriations Committee. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem spends $200 million taxpayer dollar money for a pair of Gulfstream private jets.
Without objection. Gentlelady from Vermont is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Secretary Noem, I want to start with your testimony in front of Congress last year. You said, quote, "I think it's shameful to see the defense of individuals who break our laws. We are a nation of laws. If we are not a nation of laws, we are no nation at all." Do you stand by that?
I do.
We are a nation of laws. And obviously, in a nation of laws, agencies have to comply with lawful court orders. Secretary Noem, since you took over the department, how many times has DHS violated a court order?
We always comply with federal court orders. I believe the instances that you're talking about are times when a judge has issued an order and notification came to us in a period of time that was a large enough gap to not meet the deadline. So we may have missed a deadline.
Secretary Noem, if I could,
never violated a court
Secretary
order.
Noem,
We've always
I have the
followed
numbers
federal
handy
court
right
order.
here because last week a federal judge appointed by George W. Bush identified 210 times 210 times when your agency violated court orders. And one judge has said about ICE, ICE has likely violated more court orders in January of 2026 than some federal agencies have violated in their entire existence. Now, Secretary Noem, you have said repeatedly that your department is, quote, following all court orders. But just because you keep saying it does not make it true. And Americans aren't stupid, and they can see what is happening, and judges are also sounding the alarm. In a case where you attempted to deport Ramesa Öztürk because of her First Amendment protected rights, First Amendment protected speech, the judge said that you and Secretary Rubio had engaged in an unconstitutional conspiracy, and that you both failed in your duties to protect the Constitution. And frankly, those words are absolutely shocking. And the reality is that you refuse to acknowledge, and you're doing it here today, you refuse to acknowledge that your agency has broken the law. Since you have been at the helm of this agency, has anyone at DHS lied to a federal judge?
No, we comply with all federal court orders. I'm surprised that
So
it
is your
would be
testimony that
shocking
you
to
have not?
It should not be shocking
Is
to
your
you that we
testimony
face-
that no one at ICE has violated a court order or has lied to a federal judge? Is that your testimony?
To my knowledge, I'm not aware of any
Okay.
situations where that has
Well,
happened.
so when
I
you
will
look
tell
at
you-
what the court said in the Öztürk case, it said the court rejects this testimony from ICE's leadership as disingenuous, as squalid, and dishonorable. So we have a federal judge who has rejected testimony from ICE's leadership because it wasn't true. So the head of ICE, Acting Director Todd Lyons, lied in sworn testimony. Has he been fired?
No, Todd Lyons is a good man who has
Have there been
spent decades-
Secretary
he has
Noem, have
spent
there been
decades
any
protecting the American people
consequences?
and in law
Has there been any consequences
good
for
man.
him lying to a federal judge? That's what I want to know. Are there any consequences for someone under your leadership
It is common knowledge.
lying?
We have activist judges out there throwing opinions
So you have
around that
said
are not based
repeatedly,
on law,
again, I just want to bring us
constitutional
back to my question. You have said that we are a nation of laws.
Yes,
Nobody is above the law. You are not above the law. Todd Lyons is not above the
you
law.
believe that,
No
then
one
every
working
person
for
who's
you,
in this country
nobody
illegally
working for you
should be
is
held
above the
accountable
law.
for breaking
So I
that
want to
law.
say this, Secretary Noem. It is shocking to Americans right now to see that you can sit in front of this committee and continue to cover for people who are working under you. You're in charge now. This is your DHS. The buck stops with you. The fact that you have people working under you that are lying to federal judges and that you're not going to take responsibility for that and hold them accountable to that is shocking. And I think Americans deserve so much better than that. And your employees have regularly ignored court orders and lied to judges. Now you're covering up. And I just want to say, this conduct alone is impeachable. And I want you to know that Americans will get accountability for the damage that you have done, for the lawlessness of aspects of DHS, for killing innocent Americans, for terrorizing children. They will get accountability. And you are the Secretary of DHS for now. And you think you're immune from accountability, but I promise you this, one day, he is not going to be president anymore. He is not going to be in charge. And when that day comes, we will still be here. And we will still be seeking accountability. And in hearings like this, we are going to continue to prove your guilt. I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. Gentleman from